Welcome to Galaxy of Zeros, where you will get zero good information.
You're supposed to hype us up.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is why I'm not doing the intro.
Here's mine. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Galaxy of Zeros, where four unqualified nobodies talk about starting a new Star Wars of Galaxy Heroes account. We only care about two things: helping new players wade through the sea of bad advice and mocking the ever-growing backpack Yoda culture.
That was really
Yeah,
good. I like that.
We can just stop
I think we'll just go with that one.
Yep.
I was just going to wing it, but yours is way better.
Can we do that one again, but in Minalius' voice?
Oh yeah, just repeat everything he said.
God damn it, where's the write-up? Oh, okay. Galaxy of Zeros, where four unqualified nobodies talk about starting a new Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes account. We only care about two things: helping new players wade through the sea of bad advice and mocking the ever-growing backpack Yoda culture.
How did you remember that?
He wrote it.
He wrote it in chat.
Damn, that'd be good, though.
It's
Wow, I'm an
Galaxy
idiot.
of Zeros chat.
I was
really good,
amazed.
though.
I was like,
That's,
holy shit.
Very professional.
All right, I guess should do introductions and introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Fieras. I'm an officer in Ilum in the Senate Alliance. I currently am playing two different accounts, one right around 8 million and one right around 7 million. I've been playing for almost 2 years now, and that's about it.
Scurvey.
I'm Scurvey. I also play two accounts. I have about an 8.2 million account, and I have a just brand new 4 million account. The 4 million account I started from the get-go and made all the mistakes we're going to tell you not to do. So we have good experience, especially me, so this will be a fun ride.
Wait, especially you.
Yeah,
We
I made all the
don't
bad
have experience,
mistakes.
or
No, he said he made all the bad.
I have experience making all the bad mistakes.
okay. I thought you were just saying you had all the experience. Like, what the fuck? I'm DarthVenom, or DV. I'm also in Ilum with a 4.2-ish million account. And then, same thing, I made tons of mistakes. And made a new account to fix those mistakes, which is now 2.1, I think. And that account is in Nar Shaddaa in the Senate as well.
I'm Minalius. I'm in Ilum. I have a 4.8 million GP account and a 3.2 million GP account in Nar Shaddaa that I feel like I did better on than my original account, which is now in the hands of someone new.
All of us, maybe except Scurvy, have been doing recruiting for like early and mid-game guilds for a long time. Scurvy, did you ever do recruiting for Ilum? Or one of your
No,
other
but
guilds?
I am in all the recruiting chats, so I see it all.
Yeah, he doesn't specifically recruit, but he definitely he'll message us when he sees somebody who he thinks is a good fit and that sort of thing. So he's still involved in the process.
Yep. So yeah, you do. I mean, you've been doing the recruiting for what's Ilum now? 230, 240 million guild.
Yeah.
I did recruiting for Geonosis for a while before I started Nar Shaddaa. And Min's been doing recruiting for Nar Shaddaa, which is up almost 100 million at this point. So a lot of experience doing recruiting, seeing bad accounts, seeing good accounts, and I don't know, just helping people figure out what the fuck they're doing, I guess.
Yeah, and we all started, or at least a few of us started in Ilum, and you came in early on, and even though we weren't officers right away, we saw a lot of opinions and perspectives early on from Ilum. And then when we went and made Nar Shaddaa, we saw a whole bunch of different perspectives.
Different.
It was like seeing the early game guild from different eyes, but it wasn't like it was the same questions or the same problems. It was different ones and different approaches that still come up in early game guilds and mid game guilds.
Yeah, I think starting in Ilum too, especially as early as we did, we started as early as you basically can in a guild where we weren't getting any get currency. We weren't even hardly able to sign up for TW, so those early game struggles were amplified because you didn't have that guild support at the same time, which is what a lot of guides point you to, is find a good guild, find a good guild. And so by starting in a brand new guild, we essentially didn't start in a good guild, if you will, and we had to help build it up, and eventually got there.
Yeah, and I remember when I joined Ilum about a month or two after the two of you did. We didn't even have people full clearing ranker yet, like
Right.
original ranker. Like we didn't even have to put a timer on clearing ranker too quickly yet. We were barely getting enough people to do TW. It was real early. We didn't have anybody with Slicker coming in to clear. We weren't even doing a HSTR yet. We weren't even doing heroic hot yet, or heroic AAT. Like we really started from scratch for the most part.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess before we look at it, like what does everybody think like makes a good farming guide? Like what do you think makes it good? What do you think makes it bad?
I think a good one is that it takes into consideration a few things. Your fleets is where you got to start a lot of focus, and then just not spreading yourself too thin, and having a reason to focus on characters, and not just getting characters because they can unlock stuff, but why are you unlocking them? But also, it needs to be short.
Yes.
A guide
Yes.
doesn't need to be 2 hours long, and you don't need to get into your third GL when you're talking about starting an account. You're not getting a GL for a while. Let's not talk about your third one. But past that
Yeah.
is keep it to a reasonable amount of teams. Focus on the fleet, and just don't go too deep. Sometimes,
And one thing I didn't see a lot of mention of in some of the guides that we're going to talk about is mods. Like, I didn't see a lot of talk about mods at all, and I think that's a big problem. Is people watch these guides and they get up to like that 1.5, 2 mil, 2.5 mil, and they have not touched mods at all.
Yeah,
Like, they've not ever tried to trash a mod because it didn't have a good chance to roll speed. They didn't do any of that because they just look at, oh, it's got stats on it, I can throw it on this character. They have no idea what mods are. And yeah, early on maybe mods don't matter as much, but mods so much outweigh gear when it comes to characters. Like, you can have a gear 9 character with really good mods beat a gear 12 character with really shit mods.
yeah.
I mean, mods are so important to this game that
They're so important that we're gonna have to do a whole nother damn podcast on mods, because I could talk about mods all day and explain so many different things about them that are important. But another thing, like you said, is that early on you're trying to just get some characters with some stars.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some characters with some stars, you're already kind of like, okay, well, mods will have to wait for a minute. But once you get a team built, they got to be modded. They got to be modded, and you got to understand why mods are important. But that'll be another one.
There's definitely a difference between saying I'm not ready to worry about mods and being 8 million and still having like a 0.4 mod score. Like
Exactly.
you gotta hit the balance in the middle somewhere there. To answer your question, DarthVenom, about what I think makes a good mod or a good guide, a good farming guide, right? I think it depends. I think it depends what you're looking for, and I think that's important in the guide that it has some sort of scope. Like, hey, this is a guide for people who kind of just want to have fun, or this is a guide for someone who just wants to be 100% efficient and get to the best teams as possible, as quick as possible. I think that matters, right? I think you can't look at 8 different guides and think that they're for the exact same audience. So I think when people, for those of you making guides out there, put a little more scope into the beginning of your commentary. Let us know like who's the audience for this guide. And I guess that's the long answer. The short answer is it kind of depends what you're looking for. I would just hope people would be a little bit more transparent. This guide is for this kind of person or this kind of player, that sort of thing. I wish there was a little bit more of that going on.
I actually think that's a really good point, because this first one we're going to look at, if he had said beforehand, like, hey, if you're 3 million GP and you want to make an alt account, this guide might help you out. then it would be a totally different score than
Yeah,
what it's gonna be. Okay, so yeah, the first one's Star Wars Dad, who I actually really like. I don't know if you guys really watch a lot of his stuff or not, but
I happen to be one of those people that doesn't watch almost anything. But I did watch these videos, mostly.
all right,
And I
let me do like the rundown of what
Yeah.
he recommends for everybody. So yeah, it's Star Wars Dad. The title, so it's a 2023 farming guide, top to bottom, everything you need to know. It's a little over 45 minutes long. It came out in December, so it came out about a month and a half ago. So he recommends bounty hunters, Qui-Gon Omicron, First Order, and specifically like the First Order TIE Pilot Omicron team, Imperial Troopers, Geonosians, and the Queen Iden. Forget one, just hoard it. It doesn't really give any direction on that. The fleet is Tarkin's, and he does bring up how important Houndstooth is. So it's Houndstooth Geos with Tarkin lead. For some reason, he says get Negotiator first before Malevolence. He doesn't talk about Vader being your first relic, or like he doesn't talk about Vader at all. What he recommends would complete 4 of the assault battles at Challenge Tier 1. If you follow that, which if you don't know, is really important because the challenge modes in assault battle, or challenge tiers I think they're called, they give you Chirotechs for free. And Chirotechs are like the biggest choke point now, so you want to complete those assault battles at least at Tier 1.
Right.
They also give you Zetas and relic materials.
Yep.
If you're keeping score. They're super important.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Star Wars Dad's guide, aside from the length and the unnecessary stuff at the end, is that there's a lack of synergy in what he's recommending here. Okay, because bounty hunters are great, and that's fine, but why are you farming crew and First Order in the mix of that? It doesn't really need that. And when he's saying Gideon, I don't really see a point in Gideon when you're farming Iden. If you're farming Iden, then why are you farming ITs with Gideon? You should pick one of those. There's other options, and you're kind of spreading yourself thin on teams that you don't need to. You could pick IT, you could pick Iden, but I don't think either one of them need Gideon. And
True.
aside from that, the crew in the First Order team, that's fine if you were going to follow a path towards that, but they're not really a team you want to invest heavily into early on for what else he's offering in this guide. I do like that he's saying to get Houndstooth. That's the ship you should be farming the moment it shows up until you're done. So no matter what, everybody should be recommending that. And Bosk is obviously a good farm. Bounty hunters are going to be good. Qui-Gon Jinn is a good first Omicron. I think if he's going to recommend Geos, which I also would recommend, he needs to be recommending Malevolence, and I don't know why he's doing Negotiator. That doesn't really add up either. But other than that, it's not really a terrible set, because Bounty Hunters are good, Qui-Gon Jinn is good, Imperial Troopers is a good team. You should get Imperial Troopers in one way or another. They do a lot of things, and Geos are a staple. And if you're not farming Geos, you're doing a disservice to yourself, and you're doing a disservice to your guild. In my opinion, which is important.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But I also think that Iden is a good farm if you're going to do Geos into Malevolence as well, because she comes with a Vulture droid, which is just kind of an extra along the way, and helps with the Zeta farm. Executrix I totally agree with. But that's my take on his guide. It didn't need to be longer than 20 minutes.
I know Fieras was coming in hot on this one.
Yeah, and actually, I had a quick interjection unrelated to my coming in hot, which is I think we wanted to rate these. So are we doing like a 1 to 10 scale? Are we doing an S to F scale? What are we doing here? And what are your guys' ratings for this video?
S to F is fine. I think pluses, B plus, B minus, stuff like that is fine. Gives it some variety. There's no need to change anything. Honestly, I'd give this guide The first 20 minutes, a B minus.
What do you give the
20 minutes
what do you
goes
give the last
downhill.
2 hours or whatever?
Yeah, but the rest of it gets a D because he didn't need. If he would have just said this is for somebody who has never played this game, he would have stayed at a B minus. But man, what the hell's going on with all this extra stuff? As far as what he recommends, B minus.
What's your rating, DarthVenom?
D at the highest. I mean, I still. You guys can go through what you think. I've got some strong opinions on it.
Okay, well, you mentioned I came in hot on this one. This is the first video I watched. I was super hyped about this whole podcast and looking into these cool farming videos. And unfortunately, this is the one I started with, and it started off on not the best note. And I will just say, if he labels this a farming guide, and the first 18 minutes are a farming guide. Most of my notes basically just say blah, 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 blah from that point. Because he goes from a farming guide to a literally how does this game work guide.
Yeah.
Like, this is how
Yes.
journeys work. You go here, you have to have these characters, you unlock it. This is a store. And a store you can spend materials to buy characters. And I'm just sitting there like...
Wait. Do you not remember the best part? So he's like 35 minutes in, and he's talking. I don't remember what he's talking about. And he stops and explains what a character shard is.
Yeah.
This is why I say the first 20 minutes.
This is more. His whole video was more of a game overview than it was like a farming guide.
Yeah, and I do have to say I like the guy. I like his videos in general, but I guess my 2 cents are I agree with most of what you guys have said so far. It's a little haphazard. It's a little all over the place. There doesn't seem to be much synergy. And after he kind of talks about a few character farms, which I don't necessarily agree with, a few ship farms, he then goes into just going through every single journey in the game. And it just kind of lost me at that point. And
Yeah.
I do recommend if you are looking for a farming guide, you can watch the first 18 minutes of this and then you can turn it off because it's not a farming guide after that.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything in this video that I think will lead somebody to having a great start to their account. So I'm in the D category as well. I'm gonna go with a D myself.
He says sort of like the themes of his guide are farming, fun, and focus. But this is the least focused guide we saw out of what would we do, 8 of them?
Right. One
By
of the biggest
far
issues,
the least focused.
One of the biggest issues I have is the focus. Is like,
Yeah.
again, what is this
So-
scattered choices?
So there's a couple things that were funny. So he says Grand Arena is the first priority, which is good. You want to like specify, what are you building an account for? Okay.
Yeah.
So then he says TB and TW are second and third priority. But number 3 is also Fleet Arena, which really it could be number 1.
Yeah, Fleet Arena. As we go on through this, I think we'll eventually flesh it out. But Fleet Arena really is your most important part of this game. If you're gonna try to get crystals, you're gonna try to stay competitive. You're gonna try to grow without spending money. You need that Fleet Arena.
And this is my problem too, because he says the reason Fleet is less of a priority is because you won't be able to get top 5 in Fleet without a get 2 capital ship.
That is incorrect.
That is completely not true.
As a matter of fact, I have about 200 posts from Miss Dory that show that he gets number 1 in Fleet Arena all the time with Executrix and Geos. It's totally for the first year you can get top 10, if not top 5, with just Geos and Executrix.
Yeah, my account, my Narshada account is 7, almost 8 months old, and I can still get top 1 in Fleet.
Top 1.
Top 1.
Top 1.
Top 1.
Yeah, and then you throw Houndstooth in there, and you can basically sit at number 1 because early game nobody can beat Houndstooth. Houndstooth is such a good tank ship that if you unlock Houndstooth, put some Geos with there, you can sit at number 1.
Yeah, and that's the crapshoot right there. Is not even just to get 2 ships. If you start your account at a time that some other whales decide to start their account, or some experienced people. In my Narshada account, when I started, there was 3 guys that you could tell early on they knew what they were going for, and what they were going for was Executor. And the guy that got Executor first and got it to 7 stars has been number 1 in that shard since I started this account last year around this time.
Damn.
That brings up a pretty funny point, which is one of those, you know how we said we had a lot of experience in different starts? Here's what not to do. Don't unlock fleet shards and then quit the game for 8 months. Because there's almost nothing worse you can do than unlock your fleet shard and then stop progressing, because when you come back to the game, you will never catch up.
Never. And it's crippling.
And thankfully for me, that only happened with Squad Arena. I picked up this game long before I think any of you, and then I played for a couple months, and then I stopped playing for like 9 months. And when I came back, I was in like 4,000th place in my Squad Arena shard. But thankfully, I quit the game before I hit Fleet Arena, and I was able to kind of salvage a bad situation. But I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give is when you're ready to unlock Fleet Arena, be ready for it. Don't half-ass it at that point.
Yeah. Definitely don't quit when you unlock Fleet, and I think that's a big reason that Geos are such a high recommendation for me, is because you can start farming Geos pretty early, as far as like the soldier and the spy, and get them up and ready to by the time you get to Fleet Arena.
Another thing too that I did not know when I first started playing the game is just kind of like how the Fleet Shard worked and how Fleet Arena worked. So I would just log in randomly and be like, I feel like doing a fleet battle, and didn't know that you should, wait until close to your reset time before you actually do any of your fleet battles, because you're going to get knocked back immediately. So I would attack up, and then maybe an hour later would attack again, and I would do that throughout the day. And then I was like, man, I can never climb. And so there is a tactic to the Fleet Arena that is not described very well, I guess, in game.
There's nothing with the Fleet Arena is done very well in the game. They don't explain that mods at 6 dot increase your ships. Where is that in the game?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because I didn't find that out until somebody in the Discord told me.
It was yesterday.
I'm just figuring it out. This is why I'm struggling. All right, but we're getting a little off track. Scurvy, what do you rate Mr. Dad?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I wasn't a big fan. I made some notes more on his just video as a whole, not more than his guide. The video was just way too long. We've already covered that.
Yeah.
He had some really annoying background music for the entire time that I just kept getting distracted by. I don't know. That kind of threw me off. And then it seemed like if you're going to make a guide, you need to go into the guide confident and ready to go. And it seemed like he second-guessed himself. He's like, well, I think it's over here. I think that's over there. Maybe that's not like that. That doesn't make a good guide. I'm not going to trust you. I'm not going to I don't want to follow your guide if you're second-guessing yourself. He bounced around a lot. He got into the journey characters, and he got halfway through the journey characters, and then he was like, oh, yeah, by the way, I guess I should tell you what teams you need to actually unlock these journey characters. It was he didn't have kind of like what Fieras was saying. He didn't have a scope. He didn't have an agenda or anything like that.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem, is the lack of focus. There's certain things new players need to know, and there's certain things where if you just shout out every single thing that's in the game at a new player, their head is going to explode. And that's kind of
information overload.
If you say, hey, this is what a journey is, that's fine. But if you literally go through every journey in the game, every journey in the game, oh, we could do this, or maybe we won't do that. And then he also just randomly started talking about proving grounds and conquest and assault battles, and didn't really give details on any of them, when they're important, why they're important. He also didn't talk about how you unlock the Zetas, the Zeta challenge, which is one of the most important things you need to tell new people and to get them prepared for that. But to his credit, the ships he recommended, if they actually get them all up, will do it.
Yeah, I agreed with some of the stuff that he did say to farm. I mean, he promoted getting CLS early. That's obviously super important. CLS is a very easy farm that leads to an excellent team. He promoted getting the Revens early on, which was just something that I agree with. I think the Revens are a great team, and you should definitely push them. But I think overall, I think his video just wasn't that great, and I mean, I'd say probably a C minus.
Yeah, it's something that more directed towards, what the hell are you doing as a new player, and not trying to tell somebody, a whole bunch of other stuff. Like the 18 minutes was a guide for farming, and then it went into whatever the hell.
Also, this
So-
podcast is probably going to be like 2 hours long, so we can't clown on people for it being too long. But
Well, the difference is that I'm not giving anybody a guide. I'm just here talking shit.
I thought you were here for your expert advice.
Well, that's also here, but it's not good. Anyway,
Yeah, anything else on Star Wars Dad before we move on?
I think that's it. I think we've given
Beat him
him
up
all
enough.
the credit and discredit that we could.
So Fieras, what were the scores for him?
We're looking at D, C minus, and B minus, and I kind of averaged it out as a C minus.
Okay.
That seems fair.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate.
I think it's a little high. Obviously, I was one of the Ds.
Yeah.
I only say that because that doesn't give us a lot of room, because I don't know that I think any of these guides were particularly amazing.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of squish going on in terms of the middle ranks. So for this one to start off as a C minus, I think we're going to have a lot of videos right around with the same ranking, unfortunately.
Probably, and that's more than likely because I just agree with some of the farms he recommends, and I'm more judging it off the farm rather than the entire long, horrible, or extra information video.
That's fair.
If we're- the farms, there's a lot of good in the farms that he does recommend. But the video itself, if I'm recommending it on the video, it would probably be lower. So, are we recommending farms, or are we recommending the video as a whole?
It's got to be. I mean, it's the video as the whole. The way
It's a
I
C
look
for
at
me,
it
then.
is like, will the information in this video as a whole like help somebody build a good, efficient account where they're going to actually stick with the game and have fun with the game?
If it says the video as a whole, and I'm including everything after 20 minutes, C minus even, just like Scurvy, I would say C minus. I think that I was recommending off of the farm specifically, and if we're gonna stop at 18 minutes, yeah, cool. But let's go with C minus so what is it again? D plus.
Yeah, that changes it to an overall a D plus if you're changing your rating.
Yeah, I would, because the video was too long and information overload, and again, it wasn't structured in a way that was informative in a good way.
It
Yeah, the way-
also
overdone.
It also, we didn't really mention it, but other guides are going to actually start you. So here's what he didn't do at all, which I haven't mentioned yet. They don't start at like level 20. Like, when is a new player going to look up your guide? When they're like below level 50,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guides start about like at that level. Like, here's the teams you take, when you're making your way to 85, and then these teams turn into these teams. He was just like, just farm your bounty hunters and troopers, and didn't really get into what you're doing. Because if you don't hyperdrive, your first 4, 5, 6 months in the game, you're not level 85. So a farming guide shouldn't start at level 85.
Right.
There's even, we said this earlier, but even with my perspective that I had an account that I started about a year ago, and there's things I forgot that I had to deal with.
Yep.
There's things I remember that I struggled with, but there's straight up things that I was like, I didn't even think about that. And I hyperdrive my account at level 65 right when fleets popped. But you play the game for the majority of your time after 85, so it's hard to remember certain things that were the struggles early on.
DarthVenom, do you want to start us off on the second guide, which I believe the person's name is Sungeta?
Sungeta. Go watch Star Wars Dad's other videos, though, because he does really, really cool stuff. I like him a lot. I just don't think that was a great starter guide for people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Sungeta. So this is a brand new video, so best free to play, specifically farming guide of 2023. Everything you need to know about playing for free.
I love that they're all the best. It's just really great.
We'll get to one that doesn't think they're the best, which I actually really liked. I don't know if you saw that. His video is a little shorter, 42 minutes. It came out on New Year's, which you got to give a little bit of props for. Like, first day of the year, he's ready to go.
Hey man, you planned this one.
Yeah, so like later we'll get to Arnold's and AP Gaines videos, but they're from last year because they haven't fucking taken the time to actually put out a new video.
Mm-hmm. He's too busy dancing and making music videos.
Yeah, exactly. Which, whatever. But all the videos we're doing they're new this year, except those two, because since they're two of the biggest people, we kind of just had to include.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, ready for the teams? Phoenix.
No.
Empire, CLS, Bounty Hunters, Jedi Knight Revan, Mando, Darth Revan, get your 3PO with the Ewoks team, into Malik, Starkiller, then farm your Executor, and SLKR, which is pretty long, but I try to go to the first GL if I can.
I was gonna say recommending Executor but doing Starkiller and a whole bunch of other things first seems kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Starkiller would be a rough character as an early account.
It's also completely sidetracked from every other one of his goals. And Starkiller, he might be cool, he might be fun, but
you have to farm characters that you're not, according to his guide, you're not using.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get through the rest of his stuff real quick, and then we can. I actually really liked. Maybe not really liked. I liked this guide probably more than all of them, but one, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so Malik is what you're saving your get one for. He doesn't go into Omicrons at all. Geos with Tarkin lead is the first fleet into Malevolence, not Negotiator. So his guide actually makes sense.
Yep, that's good.
He has a graphic about your what characters to farm at the end, and that graphic includes Vader, but he doesn't really talk about like Vader should be your first relic, and here's why Merciless Massacre is good or any of that. But it's just in this graphic. And then all the teams he says to farm can do 5 of the assault battles, which is pretty much the most you can get with the farming guide, unless your farming guide has Inquisitors in it, which thank God that's probably next year.
Right.
Soon though.
Yeah.
Soon.
So it sounds like Min and Scurvy are a little triggered by this guide.
Before we get to that, do you have your synopsis or your rating on it, DarthVenom?
I have to go first, huh?
This time.
Do it.
Yeah, you don't have to. You want me to go first?
I'll go first. I haven't actually decided on a grade, where to rank it, but I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I think he has the best intro out of any of the videos. Would you agree with that? Like, he defines the goals and sort of.
Yeah. I agree with that. He does try, even if maybe I don't agree with some of the things he does try to define what he's about to tell you.
Very PowerPointy.
Yes. And generally I hate me some PowerPoints, but in this situation, this is a good use of it. And a good use of how he's laying things out. It's much easier to see laid out because he's organized compared to, some others that were, let me go over here, let me go over here, let me go over here. This is whether I agree or disagree. Whether I agree or disagree with his farm, he definitely has a better layout for his guide. Still 42 minutes long.
Yeah.
Which
I think 42 is okay.
It's a little long. I think there's I think 25 minutes is a good amount of time for a guide, because there's some things he gets into that can be put into another video.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a room for more videos. That we're talking about a how to start an account free-to-play farming guide. It shouldn't go all the way into year 1.
It's that's kind of some of the notes I had about this guy. I don't need an early game guide that tells me what to farm 3 GLs in. That's not an early game guide anymore. You're a late game account at that point.
Which he does
You're not getting
do.
your 3rd GL for a minute, all right?
Yeah.
He does Executor and SLKR.
Kind of brings up a funny concept about that. of our 9 accounts between us, how many of those accounts have 3 GLs or more? I think it's 2.
It's
Yeah,
not a lot.
Maybe 3.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like if you're getting your third GL, you probably just got your second. Because eventually, once you build a core, and I can get into this later, and I'm kind of digressing, but if you build a core, you can start getting GLs unlocked in a good kind of cadence once you have a solid account. And the third GL talking on a new account is just, you're getting way too deep. You're getting way too far.
All right, DarthVenom. So where were we?
So did you have a ranking for Sungeta, or we...
I'm still debating it as I talk through it.
Okay. So you want to hear our opinions so that you don't feel stupid, right?
Well,
Okay.
I'll give you my view on it. So he doesn't rush a GL, which I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
He builds a lot of core teams before just rushing GLs. Like, my God. Well, we'll get into some of that later, I think. But Phoenix, why? Like, it's 2023. Why are we farming Phoenix? I'm literally asking you guys: is there any reason? Any?
No.
No.
Maybe if you are rushing SLKR and you want to do well in C-Pit and have Thrawn. I don't know.
And even then, no. Because that should not be your early game goals. You got to build an account that's going to have value. And like Venom said, why are you doing this?
Like, just why? Like, how many credits are we spending? How much currency are we spending to take these clowns up to level 82? Like, at least, right?
At least.
I want to know how many people have watched these guides and farmed Phoenix. And these different people are like, oh, just farm your Phoenix and then you'll unlock Thrawn. And they go into the Thrawn event. And they spend like 24 hours trying to do this fucking event. And they just quit and they delete the app and never play again.
Absolutely. You know what? I've thought about doing that a lot of times. Because of shit like that. Because of going into Thrawn with a low gear Phoenix trying to get Thrawn. And you know what I did when I got him? Nothing. He sat there. I didn't use him. And it's not that Thrawn is an inherently bad character. He's not bad. He's a good toon. But he's not needed for almost anything you're doing for a long time.
So that's a good segue into, I guess, my critique of this guide, which is not only does he recommend Phoenix for the purpose of getting Thrawn, he also recommends getting Chimera, which is also a useless, I guess, fleet in the game.
And you have to farm Phoenix ships for that. That's a whole nother farm.
Well, wait.
So Chimera is it the worst fleet in the game right now, except for maybe the Resistance fleet? I mean, which is looking like it's potentially getting some help soon, but Chimera might be the worst fleet in the game now.
Well, without Interceptor, yes, but
early game, yes.
Mace Windu
totally
would like
fair.
to
You're
talk
not
to you
getting
about
Interceptor if you're a new
Mace
player.
Windu might have something to say.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. That
but
dude's-
also Mace Windu's investment versus.
Well, that is true.
The thing is with Mace Windu, to go off a little bit, at least you're building a team that'll go into Negotiator if you end up doing Mace Windu. You shouldn't, but
Just don't farm that
at least it has a place that it goes. Building for Chimera means not only do you have to build Phoenix and their stupid ships, which is a lot. That's a lot of farm for those two just to get that fleet. Then you need to build a Empire fleet for that fleet. So you're building so much investment into a fleet that is not only bottom tier, but is not going to get you top 10 in Fleet Arena.
So here's the thing. I actually wrote a note that like how he recommends ships is very confusing, and it could confuse new players. He doesn't recommend Chimera like as your first fleet. He does characters and then randomly starts talking about Chimera. And I was so confused. I stopped and like skimmed ahead. He actually has a ship section towards the end, where there he's talking about what ships to farm when you're first starting. I don't know why the Chimera stuff is covered at all.
So that was my biggest critique, and maybe I misread it or misheard it, but the fact that he's even talking about Chimera is going to lead new players down the wrong path, especially because telling them they should get Phoenix to farm Thrawn is also going to lead them to say, oh, well, I have Thrawn, I might as well get his capital ship. But just stay away from that. Don't waste any resources on that, in my opinion. Outside of that, I think a lot of the advice he gave was pretty good. I like that he's a malevolence over negotiator. He's one of the few people that doesn't say get geoships and then ignore them and never get malevolence. Like, that to me doesn't make sense. But I like he's got some good synergies here, right? He's saying to get geos and malevolence. Obviously, those go well together. The first GL that he recommends is Executor. And this is obviously, we've talked about this in kind of in great detail outside of this podcast. That's not the worst first choice, right? There are some terrible first choice in terms of GLs and capital ships you could start with. Executor is by far not the worst.
I almost would say that it is the best if you're gonna go for a GL, quote unquote. It's a GL ship. It's one of those that has a massive return on investment.
I'm going to stick with my original statement and say it's not the worst. And I guess we can agree to disagree on that specific statement. I don't know that it's the best. I think there's a lot of people that farm Executor and they're happy they did it. But I don't think it's necessarily what you should do first. But either way, it's definitely better than, let's say Rey or something else. There's certainly worse choices you can make in life. But in general, I think I like a lot of the different things he recommended. Outside of the Thrawn and Chimera, he's recommending, Grandmaster Yoda R2 into CLS, Chewie, that kind of stuff, Millennium Falcon. In general, some things I definitely agree with. And so for me, up from a D on the last one, I would say this guide is significantly better. And for me, it's a C.
That's fair. I want to touch on the Executor thing because although I would say, again, that it's probably the best first GL, I don't in any way recommend it as an early... I don't think you should rush anything. I think you should build a good core and get it. You can still do well in fleets without rushing it, but I think before the year is over with your account, getting Executor could help you solidify your fleet past that. So, and personally, I don't recommend GL farming at all until you're pretty deep. But that's a little sidetrack. I still would say it's a decent early one. If you decide to rush it, I wouldn't even say it's a bad choice. But overall, his guide, it has a few things that I disagree with, which is Phoenix right from the get-go. If that isn't clear, I disagree with Phoenix every time they're mentioned, and that team doesn't belong on guides. He does recommend going into CLS, building into Yoda and R2, and a lot of the teams he builds does assault battles, so we're good there. I don't know why he's getting MILF. Millennium Falcon doesn't fit into anything he's building. Maybe it's cool to have it for a backup fleet or a secondary fleet with your home one or something while you're, in GAC. You got to have two fleets. But why recommend Chimera? Why recommend all these other fleets and then recommend Millennium Falcon? It doesn't do anything.
The biggest thing I could see him recommending Millennium Falcon is Millennium Falcon's a pretty common just reinforcement ship for a lot of, just like a fill-in, and it's a strong. You're farming CLS anyways, so you're going to take Han Solo and Chewbacca up to high gear anyways, which inherently makes it a good ship. So even if you don't have a rebel fleet, you can throw it as a reinforcement ability on a negotiator fleet, or even on an Executrix, hodgepodge fleet that you have, and he's still going to hit hard. So
yeah, fair point, because
if
it
you
kind
got
of
the
just
characters
happens.
to unlock it, and you got the ships to unlock it, which the requirement to unlock it's not crazy. I don't think it's just cargo
bounty hunter
ships. Or is it bounty hunter ships? So it's not
Something
crazy because you're already getting Slave 1, you're already getting Houndstooth.
Yeah. There's a lot of overlap, right, between that and Finalizer and
Especially if you're
Executor.
going for Executor, you're going to have plenty of bounty hunter ships.
Absolutely, that's a totally good point.
That might just
For
be one
me-
of those things where it's like, get this because it's easy to get based on the other stuff you're doing.
And that's a totally fair reasoning because I can understand that. You know what? This guy, C plus would be a little better if he'd get rid of that Phoenix Chimera crap.
Yeah.
But that is straight garbage and a bad recommendation. And anybody that recommends Phoenix and Chimera and Thrawn should reassess what they think.
Well, what's crazy to me is Starkiller is on this list. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're farming, oh god. Okay, you're farming Phoenix. You're gonna farm 5 characters. You're gonna level them. You're gonna gear them. You're gonna use the training droids on them, which is actually a thing that fucking matters the first like.
Early
9
on,
months
training
you play.
droids are a big deal.
Yeah.
You will run, even if you hyperdrive, you're gonna run out of training droids.
I
all
used to all the time.
all to get Thrawn to have him sit there completely just and do nothing because you're farming Starkiller. Just instead of farming Phoenix when you first start, farm Mara Jade. Problem solved.
Problem
solved. You farm one character who's going to do 10 times as much as Thrawn is ever going to do with Palpatine.
Absolutely.
Like, why? She's been in the game for over a year, so I don't understand why people are still.
She's accelerated. She's hot. She's cool. She's just a good character.
She's got red
You
hair.
know? She's got red hair.
And a purple
She's
lightsaber.
got a purple lightsaber and a gun. And she throws a grenade. Listen, if you're not attracted to this woman, then I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you. But that's besides the point. Because she's just a damn good character. You could get Mara Jade at 3 stars and she's making Palpatine an ass kicker. And if you're farming Starkiller like this fella's recommending, which I don't recommend.
But if you are,
then you don't need Thrawn. You wouldn't need Thrawn for the rest of your time playing this game until you have CPIT going on. Because even if he fits into a 5v5, say you make a 5v5 Empire team with Thrawn, that's great. But if Mara Jade and Palpatine and Vader are there, Thrawn's not going to take a turn.
nope.
He's going to watch. He's going to strategize.
You don't
You
even
know?
need 5 Empire to put with Palpatine and Mara Jade. Like,
Nope.
sometimes, like if you're under gearing, it'll help to have like a pre-taunt. Like you throw a short trooper, or set in there. But that's all you need. You don't even need 5 characters. So okay,
Not even a
I'm going to
little
talk
bit.
about this for 10 hours if I don't move on. I am actually angry that people, because we see these accounts come in when they're like 2.5, 3 million GP. It's like fuck.
Yeah.
Why?
And it's doing a disservice.
Yeah, especially when they're like,
Fellas.
oh yeah, I don't have Geos. I farmed Phoenix first. Like, okay, cool.
Which, man, Geos, aside from fleets, early on, Geos have amazing quality to them. They're just so good early on.
Yeah. But, okay, so to his credit, the rest of the teams, CLS, I think, is like the best, like, the best early thing to focus on is getting your CLS together. They're just good in every game mode. So he does a really good job explaining like where you get each character from. He even has like little icons on each character, like whether they
like
come from
that.
different energy shops. That's super cool.
Yeah.
The teams, I think I personally would have changed the order a little bit. I would have moved like DarthVenom up, but like who cares? The teams are good, I think. The problem I have is he doesn't really say when or why to farm Geonosians. And he's disrespecting the queen. So
It's unacceptable.
Jeez, can't have that.
there's no Iden on here, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Angry.
Aside from our bias just in Ilum, just because we love Iden,
We do.
Iden is another Mara Jade type character where you can keep her at 3 stars, you can get her to gear 9 or 10, throw her with a bunch of crap Imperial troopers, and she will get you holds in GAC and in Territory War every single time.
Although I completely agree with that. If you're going to farm an Imperial Trooper team, they need to be 7 stars because the whole point in farming a Empire team is to unlock some of these other unlocks you're going to need, right? Like R2-D2. Well, the only way you're getting R2-D2 is if you have an Empire team.
Yeah, I think the whole like mentality of you only need to get her to 3 stars was based on the fact that you got her for back when Marquis was a thing
Yeah.
for her, you got her 3 stars for free, and I think it was just a mentality of like she's good immediately. That doesn't mean leave her at 3 stars. I
Yeah.
think now, especially that she's accelerated and she's on the same note as Vulture Droid, you just start farming her and you get her to 7, and she's just gonna
And
be
she's
that much
getting a
better.
ship, which
Yes.
I don't know how good it's going to be. I'm just saying she's a good character, and she has a lot of value in a lot of ways. 7 stars for Iden, go for it. And again, if you're going to commit to a character, especially early on, once you commit to something, you got to kind of keep going and make that team solid. Because if you just half commit, you're missing out on some real fulfillment. The one thing I notice a lot in early game guilds is that people think that once they get a 7-star character, they're like, all right, I got him done. But it's not like that. 7-star is the beginning of that character having any quality, and gear 12 is when they kind of get to the middle. But if you got to push them characters up.
Man, do you already know what I'm going to say?
I think so.
What am I going to say?
No, you say it. You say it.
Does not apply to Jedi or DarthVenom on a Minalius account.
I knew it. So if you go ahead and farm Revens and your name is Minalius, you leave them at gear 8. Because I'm an asshole.
Yeah,
I don't
that.
hate
Don't do
the
that.
Revens. You don't have to do what I'm saying. I'm one of those people that farmed Revens for platoons, and I really should invest in them, but I am a squirrel, so I get distracted, and I just have lots of plans that don't involve Darth Revan or Revan.
So don't listen to you.
Don't
at
listen
all.
to me. Yeah, I will give you bad advice when it comes to Revens. Although, one of my top 5 recommended teams as far as journeys to start with is Jedi Knight Revan.
All right, so
Interesting.
Scurvy, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, already talked on it a little bit. I think overall the guide was significantly better than Star Wars Dad. Although, like everybody else, I don't necessarily agree with the early Phoenix farm. Eventually you got to get some pieces of the Phoenix together, but I don't think that should be a early focus at all. I still think his video was pretty long, but as a whole, his video was better content than the Star Wars Dad video. I did feel like he may have focused a little bit more on the end game stuff, but not as bad as some of the other people we're going to talk about. Like Min said, he focused early CLS, so that's always good. And we already kind of hit on it, but he was very detailed, very regimented, kind of that PowerPoint style, which maybe was a little boring. It didn't have like the flamboyancy of some of the other videos, but it was very easy to follow, and I could see myself, if I was using this guide, being able to use it almost kind of like a checklist type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I think overall, I'd probably give him probably like a B- for me. I think he was one of the better ones of the 8.
Yeah. As far as structure and layout, I think he did a pretty good job. Like we all said before, putting the energy you need on the characters, just a little icon to tell you where it's to go. I mean, I can imagine that's extremely helpful for somebody who's organized, because I'm not.
So we put it off. We put it off long enough, DarthVenom. What's your rating on this guy?
I am actually mad at this because I thought the presentation and like the way he provided information was better than anybody else. God, it's just a fucking Phoenix farm. And then the part about the Chimera journey guide randomly being in the wrong spot, I think if that was flipped and the actual fleet that you're farming to start with was there, like this easily could have been an A, but I'd go with B. Like, oh God. It's hard to give a B to anything that recommends Phoenix, but that's how good I think the presentation and everything else was.
That Phoenix shit really struggled his grade for me.
Also, the Star Killer. I don't agree at all with the Star Killer. Early Star Killer. I think he's a great character, and you obviously need to get him. But the list of characters and the list of teams he recommended farming, other than Mara Jade, just because she's useful everywhere, you're farming 4 characters that don't have homes. You're just farming them to get to Starkiller, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with that because Starkiller's not an early game. I mean, there's a few guys doing Starkiller early on in Nar Shaddaa, and they're using it to lead into Profundity. Because you get Dash Rendar, and they're doing Outrider, and they're like, and I wouldn't say that their path is necessarily too terrible, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it.
I think doing Starkiller after your first GL is a great idea. He's a great, like I said, he's a great character. I don't think he needs to be
that early.
That's just way. He's not going to benefit you enough, I don't think, for the amount of investment and the amount of other stuff you're going to put on hold to farm him.
I definitely have more insight in that. I think he's pretty good early game, and we'll go into more detail on that in a later episode. But at this point, we've got a stretch right in a row. We've got B, B minus, C plus, C. Kind of averages out to be around a C plus or maybe even a B minus between everybody. So definitely a good full grade ahead of the last one, and I think we all agreed pretty good presentation and generally a good guide overall, minus the whole Phoenix Throne situation. The next guide, we're going double PH here. Fat Phil is the next guide, and I will say this is, I'll kind of start off my thoughts on this one. This is definitely one of those first 3-year plan guides where he talks about what he recommends. Gosh. He recommends Executor into SLKR so he recommends Executor into SLKR, and then he recommends JML into Java after that. So that's your 4-year plan right there. So that's my only main critique. He is a super focused guide. So he talks about basically immediately starting to farm. Actually, do you want to do the kind of synopsis, P Flame, about kind of what he recommends?
Yeah, sure.
And by P Flame, I mean DarthVenom.
Yeah, just using every random name I've ever had.
I got a lot of names.
So this one also is brand new for 2023. It's a little shorter, so it's only 33 minutes long. He recommends Phoenix as your first team.
Wrong.
Wait, I'm wrong or he's wrong?
No, he's wrong.
Okay, I was like, wait, am I slandering this man? Or?
No, I'm just making sure that anytime Phoenix is recommended, we all know that that's wrong.
Okay, so then Imperial Troopers, Mara Jade to go with Palpatine, which is good. CLS, Bounty Hunters, Executor, Jedi Knight Revan, Darth Revan, Malak, and then talks about Geos, but they're skippable. What? SLKR, and honestly, after that, after you get to 1 GL, I'm not going to keep writing down what you recommend after that, because like you said, if your farming guide is a 4-year plan, what are you doing? Get one on Malak and Wampa, Omicron, Wampa, the Malevolence Fleet with Geos, which is good. He does actually talk about relicking Vader and why Vader is important. He can get 5 assault battles, which is good. And yeah, that's it.
He talked about Malevolence with Geos, but then he talked about how Geos might be skippable, and that's where I was kind of like, huh? I was very confused.
So I've got to start off with his first recommendation being Vader. I mean, you can't really go wrong with making Vader your first relic. He's somebody who can be a team by himself as a relic character. I don't know that I'm ever, no matter how long this game goes, I don't know that I'm ever going to disagree with that. So I like that. And then, you know what? He goes real hardcore into Executor prerequisites at that point. He's recommending Veers, Piet, Bam. He definitely wants you to get that Executor early. And again, we kind of talked about that earlier. I don't know if that's the best plan, but it's not the worst plan. I can get behind that. That's what I did on my first account. First thing I did was unlock Executor. It certainly helped in Fleet Arena. The problem, and this is something I guess I should address sooner than later, is when I'm talking about getting GLs and capital ships like Executor or Profundity or teams like, SK. I want those teams to carry me in some of the more important game modes, right? Like, I thought to myself, I want to do well in Fleet Arena, and I did well in Fleet Arena from the start. I was number 1 in my shard long before I got Executor. I was thinking, maybe when I get Executor, I'll wake up in the morning and still be in first place. But you know what? It didn't happen. Executor, people were still beating it. There were people cheating in my fleet shard. There were people with 3-star Geo ships beating my Executor fleet. So that kind of left a pretty nasty taste in my mouth in terms of rushing Executor at the start. Did it help me? Yes. It definitely guaranteed I wasn't going to lose, my fleets in GAC, but it didn't carry me enough to where I was winning GAC without trying, I was still struggling. So I know people talk a lot about how important it is to start winning your fleet shard as soon as possible. If you're struggling to get to top first place in your fleet shard, then I think Executor's a great choice. I was already in first place in my fleet shard, so I didn't get really any added benefit for picking up Executor. This guy's going hardcore into Executor early. Some of the first people he talks about farming are straight into that prerequisite for Executor. He does recommend a couple of other things like CLS. His journeys he recommends getting Thrawn, so we know what that means.
Yeah, he's wrong there, right?
It means that he wants you to get Phoenix, so I don't agree with that one.
Yeah,
in general, in terms of the, I guess, stuff that he recommended, he was pretty similar to the last one we just did, Sungeta. Like in terms of the characters that he recommended, it had a lot of overlap, but I think his presentation wasn't quite as good. So for me, this one I have just a little bit less ranking on it. Instead of a C, I gave this guy a C minus.
Those are fair points. Fair points. I think that this guy gets a little bit of a bonus because he recommends Vader early, and then he recommends some stuff to go to Executor. Like you said, he goes hard into it, And personally, I think that the only GL you should really even worry about pre 3 to 4 million is Executor. Do you need to get it right away? Like you said, you should be able to get Fleet top 10, top 5, even number 1 without it for a long time. But it's kind of dependent on your Fleet shard too. If you're already getting number 1, like you said, kind of gain nothing. But if you get it and you weren't able to get number 1, it's going to increase your crystal income. Overall, I don't disagree with a lot of things he recommends. Imperial Troopers are really good. Vader as a first relic is amazing, and I mean he's a great character. Bam is kind of odd, but since he's going to Executor, it makes sense. But I tell you what, farming that team for Bam it's very unsatisfying because Bam kind of sucks as a character. He's not terrible, but his whole purpose is to be part of Razor Crest's life.
His non-legendary version is better than his legendary version.
Yeah, I really prefer just the Mandalorian versus Bam because the Mandalorian kicks ass. He is awesome, and you got to get Grief along with him. So you get 2 really great bounty hunters, even if they're light side. But I mean, these 2 are stellar characters, and can save you from a lot of things.
It's just that I mean, Bam is good, but like his place in the game is like mid game and end game. Like, what do you do with the Bam if you're 1 million GP?
I mean, the only team I ever use him in my bigger account is the Mandalorians. And he's good there. I mean, he does work there because
which is another 4+ million GP account at least.
Nobody's getting Maul without being 4 million, so that it doesn't.
He recommends getting Mara Jade, which if you're gonna get Palpatine and Mara Jade, I mean, there's really no bad there. We've already talked about it. Mara Jade is a wonderful, beautiful lady. Piet, if you're gonna go for Executor and you're gonna get Relic 8 Piet. Well, you might as well build the IT team. It doesn't make sense not to at that point. He recommends Phoenix. No. We're just gonna move on from that, and then he recommends CLS, Bounty Hunters. It's some solid teams he recommends. The video wasn't as good as, say, Sungeta's. Sungeta had a pretty good layout. This guy, he's all right, but it wasn't anywhere near the quality. You definitely don't need to farm Phoenix. You definitely don't need to farm Thrawn, anything towards Thrawn. And anytime somebody I think he recommends DarthVenom as a journey later on after like a bunch of other ones. I have a hard time recommending DarthVenom just because he's a good team. It's not bad at all, but obviously we know how I work with Revens. I don't.
Yeah, why don't you leave the Revan commentary to us?
I'll just leave that.
Well, the thing with Darth is he needs Malak, unlike Jedi Knight Revan who doesn't.
And that's another thing. If you're recommending Malak as one of your first Get One characters, you're wrong. Because the first Get One character you should be getting is Wampa.
That's if you're into GAC, and maybe not everybody is. Maybe someone like me, as you guys are probably well aware. I'm super not focused on GAC, and I think that would be the factor in whether or not you should grab Wampa as your first Get One character. Because I'm not going to waste Omicrons on GAC characters. Like, yes, there's some rewards there, but like for me, Wampa is definitely not my first Get One pick, unless you're pretty gung-ho on going JML as your first GL.
So
if you're free to play, you got to find all the crystals you can wherever you can, right? And in my opinion, GAC might not be fun all the time, because it ain't. I don't really care about GAC when 3s comes up or anything. But I'd much rather have one toon that can do a lot more than having to build a whole team. So that's my kind of Get One approach.
In his defense, I think you could get Wampa first with this path and still probably have enough to 7-star Malak when it comes around, because he's got a lot of stuff in between. That Executor farm is not going to be quick.
Right.
So I think you could just Wampa here first, and then like maybe you're stuck on a 6-star Malak for like a couple weeks. It's not a big deal. But yeah, my only other thoughts on this one is it should have stopped halfway through and then focused on like ships. Obviously, you're focusing Executor, but like talking about what ships to do before that, what ships you use to unlock the Zeta challenge, that stuff is the stuff that is really helpful. It was not covered. So I'd go C. Did everybody do a score on this one?
I have not yet, and I'm gonna agree. I think a C. I thought he had a better length. We're getting there. I still thought it was a tad long. Obviously, you guys hit on the fact that he went way too far. I mean, this early game guide needs to be, here's your first 9 months in the game, tops, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't need to be any longer than that.
I'll take 18 months. Like, it shouldn't be half a decade.
No. Rushing fleets, obviously, is key. Crystals are king in the game. And the biggest hiccup for me, other than the Phoenix and stuff like that, but I don't see in any way, form, or fashion that you make Geos potentially skippable. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. If you're trying to get into a guild that maybe you are going to be a smaller account in that guild, you better have Geos to be able to contribute. I mean, that's the fastest way to get overlooked when you're looking for a guild.
Absolutely.
Is not having Geos. Because if you're gonna do anything for your guild, be able to give them watch shards.
I don't know how many times that's come into conversation when we're deciding whether or not to pick up a new recruit. How much GP do they have? Okay, what's their mod score? Okay, what relict characters do they have? And then you're kind of on the fence and you're like, well, do they have Geos at least? And someone's like, well, they've got a 3-star GBA, and you're like,
pass.
I think I'll pass.
Yep.
That also figures into the conversation when you're talking about removing people. Like
100%.
If you're contributing to your guild, you're going to have a lot more leniency when, like, I don't know, either you're having participation or like you have real life stuff going on, or you're just not growing fast enough. Like, if you're doing what you can to help your guild's going to help you out too. But if you're just being a shithead,
right,
then
yeah. And a little hint there, Rote, the new TB, needs some nonsense tunes. I'm going to tell you, if you got a nonsense tune that ain't nobody else got, you just increased your value to the guild. If you got a Relic 5 Ugnaught, and I'm not saying to farm this early. We're obviously talking about we're talking about early guilds, but if you got something that's valuable, it doesn't matter where you are in the game. There's always something that will bring value to the guild. Whether it's Geos early on, which is great, or whether it's this crap later.
Relic 5
I feel like what you're saying right now is so counter to everything else we've said for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't farm that. I'm not saying to farm that. I'm just saying that at every point in the game, you're going to have to contribute value to your guild.
ETH Koth.
Raise your hand if you have
he's there,
useless Relic 5 tunes. That's
I just farmed ETH Koth for our guild just in time for the platoon, so... Hey,
yeah,
it got us 10 million extra contribution.
Yeah, again, the most important thing you can do in this game is find out what your guild needs and contribute to it. This is value to them, and it also increases your value as a player.
So we are sitting at a C average for this one, which is good enough for second place out of 3 so far. We were actually, there was very little variance in this one. We only ranged from C- to C+. So I think we all agreed it was a fairly average one. And in the mindset of moving faster, a little bit faster, we're going to move on to GothemAgain. If you, DarthVenom, would like to give your little breakdown of that one.
Yeah, he had like 16 subs when I found this guide, which is pretty cool. So new content creator. 2023 free to play. Did you guys see this title? Did you catch that? 2023 free to play best probably team by team farming guide.
Yeah, well, at least he adds a probably, but I'm glad it's still the best. They are all the best. If you write a guide and you don't call it the best, then I guess I can't watch this shit.
Well, this is the best probably. So
yeah, he gets a win there. Okay. Well, so far we have disagreed. And you know what? Actually, we agree. So far, it is the best probably.
I mean, the track record so far has not been great.
Actually, Sungeta is still plus above him. Anyway, as we progress.
I'll get real quick into this one. Well, you got to give your spiel, Venom, and then I'll get real quick into that one because I was not a fan.
So yeah, it came out at the start of the month, so it is brand new. 35 minutes long. So teams to farm: First Order, Mon Mothma, Empire, another First Order team. You're just getting the SLKR requirements. Bounty Hunters, Dash Bam, SLKR, CLS, Padme, Sith Trio, and then I wrote he goes into infinity more teams planning the account through building Lord Vader and Jabba, and obviously we're not going to go into all that.
Ridiculous.
But he was wearing a Cincinnati Bearcat shirt, so I like that. I'm a big FC Cincinnati guy, so.
I don't know what that is.
Dive in, Scurvy.
All right, so I am not a fan of SLKR Rush, and Min is an SLKR Rush-ish.
I can speak on this completely.
So he can speak on this, but I think you are just shortchanging yourself so much by rushing. There's just no need to rush a GL. Getting SLKR at the 18-month mark, 2-year mark, there's no problem in that. You can have a really, really good account and then get SLKR. I think SLKR is a great first GL. Probably not the number one GL I would recommend first, but I think probably the second GL I would recommend to be number one. But no, there's just no reason to rush it. You're shortchanging your account, in my opinion. And then on top of that, he decided to go like way far down the rabbit hole with other GLs and whatnot. He also had a weird thing for Cara Dune. I thought kind of threw me off. He was like obsessed with Cara Dune.
Wait, you don't like Cara Dune?
I mean, I think she's a good character and she's a good tune in the game, but I've never known anybody to like her that much.
Did he like her
Okay.
as much as Minalius likes Mara Jade?
He was pretty close. He was up there.
Pretty close, huh? Well, he must be doing some. Mm-hmm.
I would put this guy as a D for me.
Yikes. Okay.
D.
All right. Who's next?
I'll go. So, as somebody who did do the Slicker Rush and has experience in doing a Slicker Rush, I would say that Slicker Rush is not terrible. It does. I think it does do a disservice to your account if you just rush straight into him. But I think if you give yourself a couple of solid teams to build at the same, because whenever you're doing a GL or whenever you're doing a bunch of teams towards like Slicker, you have a little bit of extra that you can build on the side along the way. Okay, like I built Geos before I built anything for Slicker. I built wrongly Bad Batch while they were unaccelerated while I was building towards Slicker. I ended up building Slicker in about 10 months, and I could have done it in 8. I spent a little, so this isn't, free-to-play perspective. So, Slicker's going to take you 11, 12 months with free-to-play minimum if you're hyper-focused. And that's where the disservice comes in, is whenever you hyper-focus on Slicker, you're going to get 2 solid teams early on that will only get worse. Now, I say that because crew and like a solid first order team early on, you're kicking ass. You're getting holds. He's timing people out. But once people realize that health immunity takes him out, he's not as strong anymore. And the real benefit of getting Slicker early is that I can place him bottom in GAC, or I can place him in a zone in Territory War. And since it's early on, he's going to get holds. He's going to stop an entire guild from moving past that zone unless they got a counter, which is great. It's beneficial, but did it make my account stronger for rushing him? Not really. If I would have built a core, if I would have built CLS and a dark side team that is, say like, First Order or Vader Empire teams, or gone a couple different directions, I think I could have had a more fleshed out, more solid account. That being said, I have not had my Slicker lose or even get beaten one time in GAC since I got him. I place him on defense, and I'm pretty much guaranteed in Bronzium right now. I'm guaranteed to stop the bottom from ever dropping. So there's benefits to it, but it's just not an optimal play because it just spreads you and it doesn't spread you out enough when a lot of times things will spread you out too much.
Well, I will give him credit because it is different, which is, there's something to be said for doing things a little bit differently. It's also not said. Phoenix.
He did not recommend Phoenix. That is
First comment. He's the first one not to recommend Phoenix.
I will take
I'm gonna high five that
over
dude.
Phoenix any day of the week.
You're right. They're both wrong, but I agree.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not peak efficiency, but it's not Phoenix, so I can't clown on him
That's a
too
good
much.
point.
I thought there's a part where he says he wants to build out extra bounty hunters to make the executor requirements useful in teams. Don't do that. That's stupid. Don't do that. He does go into how important Houndstooth is, and Bosk, which is important. He doesn't really talk too much about ships or Zeta Challenge, that sort of stuff, but obviously he's doing the First Order fleet and Tarkin before he unlocks Finalizer. I probably would have said C, but somebody asked about Phoenix in the comments, and he said fuck Phoenix, so I'm willing to go B on that, just for that comment.
Wow.
Between the shirt and that comment, I gotta go B.
This guy.
My
You know
bias
what?
is
That's
showing.
fair.
But-
That's fair.
and it goes without saying, too, don't do the 5-year plans on accounts.
No.
Just
stop.
So, I mean, you called it out before I got a chance to call it out, which is this is the first guide out of 4 that did not recommend Phoenix. That's a straight up pay bump from one level up. That's a straight you get an extra point here. just for not wasting people's time on Phoenix. The other thing I have to clear the air. This is not the cat guy. For those of you who watched the previous video, Fat Phil is the one who spends like 5 minutes at the beginning of his video playing with his cat. So that wasn't this one, and I understand why that wasn't put in the notes because it has absolutely nothing to do with Star Wars or the game. But
I'm just saying, I really liked how he played, or disliked how he played with that cat for 5 minutes. I remember watching that video and thinking, are we fucking serious right now? Like,
What's wrong with the cats?
He also didn't put it in scope in the start of his video where he said, actually 5 minutes of this video is me playing with my cat. That would have been nice to know.
yes, because I kept skipping, and I was like, seriously, there's still a cat. There's still a cat.
And I like cats. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I have 2 cats. I love cats. But like, cut that out of your video. We don't need to see that. But I you know, we've talked a little bit about the Slicker Rush. I've seen people start accounts a lot of different ways. In fact, in Ilum, we have quite a few people who went for the Slicker Rush. Upwards to 15 probably people. That's why we have 21 Slicker and 10 or less of every other one. I will at least put my defense in here. I'm going to say the same thing about Slicker that I said about Executor. It's not the worst rush. There are worse things you can do with your time. And I say that specifically because I don't think people should rush a GL at all. However, if you're gonna do it, Slicker is not your worst choice because, and here's why. I kind of told you how I felt earlier about if you're gonna put in the effort to get a GL or an Executor, it better carry you, right? And I don't think C carried me. When I got C, I was super disappointed. And I was like, this character is not carrying me. It should be. I spent so much time getting a freaking Galactic Legend. It should be carrying me.
Right.
And it didn't. Oh my gosh, does Slicker carry you? And not just in one mode. He carries you in every single game mode. So there is that to be said about him. He is amazing in raids. He is probably, with the exception of maybe you could make an argument that JMK is as useful in raids. Slicker is good in every raid. He's the first and easiest GL that you can get that can completely solo HSTR. He can obviously solo Heroic Ranker and Heroic AAT. He also does work in C-Pit. Every single raid that you want to have a Slicker. He's good in every single one of them. He's also good in Territory War and GAC, obviously. He's good in so many different game modes that I never regretted having Slicker. There was never a time where I was like, why the fuck did I farm this guy? It was always, I am so glad I farmed this guy. He is fun. He has like a cool, just kind of the idea behind ramping into insane amounts of damage is just really fun.
That's true.
The fact that he can go unkillable for 3 rounds while he ramps even further. I just love this character, and I'm not recommending you rush him, but I just don't think people are ever disappointed by this character. It's a fun character. It comes with a strong fleet. It comes with 2 different teams, especially when you're talking about TW. It comes with the Phasma team. I can't say enough good things about Slicker, and I just have to say if you want to rush Slicker, it's not the worst decision you can make.
I think you touched on a really important thing also that not only wasn't touched on, at least as far as I remember in this video, but it was kind of overlooked, was the Finalizer fleet. You know, he doesn't really mention to, you know, he mentions to rush Slicker, but he doesn't mention to farm the Slicker requirements. That's something that if you don't start farming them ships early, guess what you're not getting is Slicker. Yeah. Finalizer takes some time, and as much as I don't really think the fleet is fun, it is a strong fleet, and it is a useful fleet.
Just not on defense.
It's
It's
just
not great on
defense.
defense.
Yeah.
Just not on defense.
But you can use it offensively to climb. It's one of those fleets where you don't need get to for, and it does progress you up as long as you play it. It doesn't have an ult, which is kind of stupid. And it's not a fun fleet, but again, it's strong and Slicker, like you said, he's fun. He's a fun character.
My only problem with the finalizer, I think the ship is fine. You should not lock a GL behind an event that only comes around once every so often.
Twice a month.
Yeah. I think if it's a GL wreck, it needs to be something that you can hit when you're ready.
Which is why I think this guide fails to mention how crucial it is to do that, because you don't need him you don't need finalizer even 7-star. You just need him 5-star. But if you aren't farming Kylo's command shuttle from the get-go, that shit takes 6 months without refreshes. It's frustrating.
All right, you convinced me. Drop my score to C. I'm done memeing. You're right.
Right.
I mean,
so for me, really,
SLKR's
the synopsis for me is just like the like you guys said, the Kyle Katarn Rebel Fighters Mon Mothma thing just seemed out of place. There's no reason that has to be one of your first farmed things. Even if you're gonna go SK, you just don't need that crap right away. That seemed out of place. Outside of that, I don't hate Slicker farms. I like this one better than the previous one, and I haven't really had too many high ones, but I'm actually going to go C+ on this one. I liked this one better than some of the other ones.
Okay.
So that puts us at about a C- average, which actually isn't the worst one, but not the best so far. Okay, so let's change gears 100%, and we will next talk about a person that I don't necessarily think brings a lot of positivity into the environment. And honestly, gosh, I don't know that I should be the one to introduce him. Somebody else should introduce him.
I don't watch this guy in any way, and the only reason I'm in his server is to recruit people. But APGain seems to have a approach that I just don't agree with. It's very Backpack Yoda focused, and it's very focused on taking advantage of situations that are not really there for everybody. To be honest, I didn't even watch his video.
Okay, let me do the intro then. Since you guys can't even get through it. Okay, so APGain, he has not put out a 2023. Yeah, he's not put out a 2023 farming guide. So he put out a bunch of them last year. I don't remember why, but he put out like 3 of them. But anyways, this is the last one he put out. Is the ultimate free-to-play farming guide from last year. So this is 6 months old at this point.
That's ultimate.
42 minutes long. The teams,
42 minutes too long.
the teams he's farming: CLS, Bounty Hunters, Padme, Darth Revan, Jedi Knight Revan, General Grievous, Gas, and then after that into JMK as the first GL.
That's wrong.
Okay, hold on there.
It's not wrong based on his process.
Yeah, so get one is being saved for Gas. He doesn't go into Omicrons, I don't think. The first fleet is going to be Akbar-led Geos, and then into the Negotiator fleet. He does talk about Vader being your first relic, why it's important. You can do 5 assault battles with those characters. Wow, okay. Yeah, I'll just go last then. I'll try to not be the negative Nancy.
Well, I think he's kind of got this like I don't know, stigmatism. I don't know if that's the right word or not. Whatever. Stigma. Sorry. He's got this stigma of people that go into his servers or go into other servers and say they're looking for top guilds because they are following the APGain's farming guide.
Yep.
And so everybody, all these recruiters for these guilds are supposed to look at you and say, "Oh, I want that guy because he follows the APGain's farming guide." But when you look at the APGain's farming guide, it's not anything crazy. It's not a guide that stands out. It's got a lot of weird choices.
Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. He tells you to be a backpack Yoda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what he tells you is this farming guide is, in his opinion, the best GAC only farming guide, right? So that is the only game mode he cares about. That's the only game mode he's telling people to focus on if they want to follow this guide, right? So he's specifically saying, basically, like, fuck your guild. We're not going to do TW stuff. We're not going to do TB stuff. Like, we're just doing GAC teams, which, if that's the part of the game you like, then that's fine. But obviously, people will have other opinions about it.
Yeah, and focusing on GAC is fine. I have no problem with focusing on GAC. It's a big crystal income, and early on, that's kind of where you gotta you should probably focus early on. But that doesn't mean that you can't also contribute to your guild. That doesn't mean that you should ignore the 49 other people that you're trying to work towards some goals with. It's one thing to say, hey, your first 2 Omicrons, GAC. I don't have no problem with that. Qui-Gon Jinn or Wampa or something like that's cool, and then going into some TW Omicrons. But if your entire focus is just yourself, you're not playing a game with a guild. You're playing a game, and you're using a guild. There's a difference.
Yeah, I think the most egregious example of this is he specifically says, do not gear your Geo team, right? We're not gearing Geos. Like, we're just not going to do it. We'll use the ships a little bit at the start, but don't gear or level the Geos. It's a waste, because if you have Django, then you can unlock Padme without him. So the first GL he's farming is Kenobi. But he's not farming Geos, which means, like, literally part of the guide is to just fucking leech onto a guild that can get you watch shards.
Right.
Yeah.
And just ride that to success.
Aside from that, and me and Scurvy at least have a little bit of experience in this, because I know with my first account that I don't own now, but Scurvy's first account as well, we almost had the same path, and it was like, man, I want JMK. This would be cool. I'm gonna get JMK.
Oh God, it's such
and you
a
know
bad
what?
First GL. He's a great
it's
GL,
probably
but he's not a good first GL.
He's so cool. He's cool looking. He's just cool. But if you get JMK and you don't have Cat, I'm gonna kick its ass with gas, and I'm not even gonna have to try, because he ain't got shit he can do without Cat. That's the biggest problem with JMK early on, is you ain't getting Cat till you're 4 million GP plus.
Yep.
So if you're going for JMK, as cool as it'll be, you're going to be struggling in multiple different avenues. Aside from the Watt thing, which that's egregious as shit. You're going to tell me you want a 7-star Watt and you're going to ignore Geos? You're the first person I want gone. All right? So, I will kick you.
So... Based on the fact that you did not watch this video, Min, what is your score on this video you didn't watch?
Some bitch gets an F.
He does. I did find another thing funny. This is not good or bad, just kind of funny. If you get to the 28-minute mark in his video, on his where he starts talking about getting JMK, he has a primary farm of Admiral Trench. Although this video was released 6 months ago.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I don't know if he was just doing it for the memes, because I believe that Admiral Trench model is used in the Lord Vader event. I don't know. I've never done it. So,
yep.
But yeah, 28 minutes he uses the Admiral Trench, literally the exact game art for Admiral Trench.
You know, it sounds like this guy's trying to make people do the wrong things.
So what's
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just kind of trying to move it along and kind of
you're right.
What is Scurvy's, I guess, overall take on this one?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, a D-. I think there is this shadowless of a good ideas in there. Like, I do agree with going with gas. Personally, as someone who is farming JMK, I think JMK is a great GL, although 100% of the reasons why Min said not to farm him, which is Cat, is 100% right. But yeah, I mean, don't follow this guy's videos.
So I'm very I have mixed feelings about his videos because I'm a min-maxer by heart. I'm all about finding the best way to efficiently move up and get endgame as quick as possible, right? And so that's definitely his MO. How to be opportunistic? I would call him opportunistic, I think is my description of this guy. He's also not quite as much as the next person we're going to talk about, but he's almost a little bit clickbaity sometimes, where he just like he wants to be sensational. He wants to like be like, oh, this is the absolute coolest thing you will ever see. Come watch this, and you watch it, and you're like, that's really not that exciting. He's a little bit clickbaity for me, which I don't.
I would
love.
say a lot of bits.
Yeah. A lot of his
again, the next person we're going to talk about is even more on that spectrum, but
Very true.
This guy doesn't quite have the production quality of the next guy, but I think if your goal is to not really care about anyone else, to gain stuff and level up as quickly as you humanly possibly can, then this is someone who will help you with that, because he totally pushes you down a path where you're leeching off of society and gaining as much as possible as a result. But when I think about this, and I'm someone who I don't play single player games, almost period, because I want to be part of a community. I want to contribute to the greater good. I want to take the sum of the parts being greater than the sum. You know what I'm trying to say. I want synergy between people to accomplish things as a group, and this guy just doesn't care about that at all. And I think he's bad for the game. I think he's bad for the overall game because he teaches people to be selfish. He teaches people to try and get into guilds they have no business being in. And and to me, I don't care how good your farm guide is. If you're contributing to worsening a game that everybody really enjoys playing, then I just can't give you a good score, and I've got to give him an F. Because I honestly just don't. I don't think he brings positivity to our game. And do you know how many people and how much struggles, even us, we see in recruiting because of him? He makes everyone else's life a living hell.
Damn, that is brutal.
And honest and true.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, so before I get to the guide, I'm just talking about him in general. There are people who enjoy the game just by doing GAC, and that's just what they like about the game. They don't care about their guild, and if that's how they have fun, I don't really care. Like, have fun that way. I'm not gonna judge them for like, oh, you're doing fun wrong or anything like that. If that's how they want to play, if
that's a good point right there. Hey, you should be funning the way I think you should be funning. I agree with everything Fieras said, but you make a good point.
Look, I'm sure there's probably guilds out there too where you join them and you're just like, this place is hell. This is toxic. These people are stupid. They don't know anything about, If you just want to play GAC and ignore everything else, I don't really care. It's fucking annoying when we have all these people that try to join the guild following these guides that are, not suited for helping out a guild, but whatever. As far as the guide goes, I actually kind of like the guide.
He doesn't recommend Geos, god damn it!
Okay, let me explain.
You're fired. I'm walking away.
The Geos thing aside is horrible. But, okay, so his first team, CLS, Bounty Hunters, Padme, Darth Revan, Jedi Knight Revan. I dare you to name, 5 other teams that are a better start than that, right? And then the guide itself, like, he actually spends time breaking out, like, what characters you farm and when and how, like, during the leveling process, right? Like, the problem with a lot of the guides is they basically start at E5. They're like, oh yeah, farm this 5-man team. It's like, okay, well, some of those you can't start farming until, like, level 50 or level 75, so what do you do until then? He talks about relic order, which is important, like what relics you want to do first, what Zetas you want to do first. I don't like, again, that he goes on for, like, 3 years of the account. Like, what is your 5th GL? Like, please stop.
Yeah, that's fucking outrageous.
But he talks about the negotiator and the fleet, and to farm the fleet early ahead of time. So a lot of the information that's important, like the Zeta challenge, a lot of that is in there. It was weird that he said he said a lot of people struggle in Galactic War from level 0 to 45. It doesn't unlock until 40, so I don't know what the fuck that meant, but
You're definitely struggling if you can't play it.
yeah.
Oh, the struggle is real. I haven't even unlocked it.
But I mean, my problem is his mentality and like him telling people to not, to not do anything that's going to help your guild. But I mean, if I'm just looking at what he's telling people to farm and how, like CLS, Bounty Hunters, Padme, Darth Revan, Jedi Knight Revan, Grievous, Gas, like that's a pretty good path to set, someone on their first year in the game, and he explains a lot of the stuff that's important. I don't know, if he just would recommend fucking Geos and, like go get some of those Watt shards that you need for your first GL. I'd want to give it an A, but I guess I'll go with the B.
B. Solid B for the guy that doesn't want to help anyone.
Because I'm looking at this like...
No, it's a fair... I can take that. You have a fair assessment.
Oh, here's my thing. If Star Wars Dad did this guide, would it not be an A?
I didn't watch the video.
Like if it just wasn't AP Gains, if it was Star Wars Dad.
If Star Wars Dad was recommending not getting Geos and recommending JMK as your first GL, no, it would not have been an A.
It still wouldn't be an A.
Fair.
Yeah, kiss my ass there. JMK is not the first GL you get, and Geos is absolutely
In
needed.
fact, I would have said the baseline is B, and that because it's AP Gains, it's a C. I think you're rating it significantly over.
That's fine. Look,
So
there's no
B,
Phoenix,
huh?
okay? I give the 1 grade bump on any guide that doesn't have Phoenix in
So
it.
I have to do the
He
same.
does have
I want
Phoenix,
so
28.
badly to give this guy an F, but I have to bump it back up to a D because he didn't recommend Phoenix.
Minute
I'm
28,
sticking with an F.
he has Phoenix. I'm just
We're
telling
not
you.
getting C. Wait, is that like a forever, like after JMK, we're getting C, so we need Phoenix?
On the same slide as JMK, he has the entire Phoenix squad, along with some bounty hunters, Cardoon, Bam. Looks like he's getting ready for setting up for Executor, but he has.
I'm okay with this. We're 18 months into the account. I don't care, is my take at that point.
That's what it is. I continue with my F of the video I didn't watch because I disagree with his approach to the game.
All right.
I disagree, and I just Geos are a needed thing, and I don't want to shun somebody, like you said. I don't want to be like, you can't have fun this way. That's fine, but if you want to be an efficient, quality contributor, not even just guildmate, but contributor, it's got to be more about it's fine to be selfish. It's not fine to be selfish to a fault. And that's where my biggest fault is with this guy, is that it's consistently about just yourself.
Wait till we talk about the next guy.
Yeah, okay. Let's get the aggregate, and I don't want to spend more than 2 minutes on the next guy because we've already gone on so long.
So this
Right.
guy got a D plus aggregate. With the fact that he got a D minus, and an F, it pulled your B down to a D plus.
Rough.
And I just have to say, I know you want to spend only 2 minutes on this guy, but with all of the effort that this next guy puts into the community, I feel like I just have to give my little spiel on him, which is back long before I ever even really cared about this game, I watched a couple of this guy's videos because Venom said, you guys got to watch these videos. This guy's production quality is off the charts. And
Yep.
my goodness, does he make good videos? Content aside, I don't think his content is great. I think he's absolutely absolutely a clickbait. He wants people to come get and watch his videos and stuff like that. But from a enjoyment, entertainment, production quality level, there is no other streamer in this entire community that can hold a candle to this guy. He puts out amazing, generally really funny, well-produced videos, and nobody comes close from that standpoint.
I would say, okay, so I have a little bit of a different perspective on Arnold because obviously that's who we're talking about. We didn't mention it, but so the guy that got me in, the guy that got me into the game is a friend of mine, and he's been playing the game for years, and he started watching Arnold before he had the production value. He started watching Arnold when he was just a dude that was a lawyer that happened to like this game a lot. And it progressed into what it is today. And the one thing I can say about this guy is that he loves this game.
Mm-hmm.
He portrays that he loves this game. A big counter to the previous dude in Arnold is not just the production value, but Arnold likes playing Swago. He enjoys the game. And a lot of positivity comes from him. There's negativity, but everybody's got a little. But he went up against a guy in the Senate. It was an entertaining time. I don't watch YouTube people. I'm an old man, and I don't enjoy YouTubers. I think all of it's clickbait, and I can't fucking stand it.
How do you feel about podcasts?
Fuck! You know what? They're all right. At least I can just listen. But the thing is with a lot of YouTube clickbait is that production value is more important than the actual content. The only difference though here is that Arnold, he does have a crazy production value. It's the few videos I've watched, it's amazing, the production value. But because he's so passionate about the game and he is a fairly positive person, I don't hate the clickbaitiness, because I think he although he clickbaits, he does also provide a when you get there, you're like, oh, I'm still entertained, you know? I don't want to watch all his music videos, but am I going to lie and say they didn't make me laugh every once in a while? Fuck no. Sometimes it's just funny.
All right, so give us the breakdown, Venom.
The breakdown is, this is just fucking garbage. Don't watch it. It's an F. Everyone's going to say it's an F, and we should just move on.
Rock and
roll. A little bit more than that. My problem with this is, I mean, it's not a farming guide. Like you said, it's clickbait. It's just over the fucking algorithm threshold. And I looked it up. This video, and like going back to the one he did the year before, it gets about 6 to 7 times more views than any other farming guide. And it's not even a farming guide. It's literally start with Phoenix, and then I'm gonna go through every single journey in the game and just tell you about it.
It's a farming guide in the sense of it shows you how to unlock the stuff in the game. It is not showing you the most efficient route to get there. It is just how to unlock
journey.
stuff.
It's a journey guide spreadsheet, basically, infographic.
It's just a tutorial, if you will, on how to unlock stuff in the game.
But it literally says, Galaxy of Heroes Farming Guide, unlock all legendary characters for beginnings.
Yeah, exactly. It is just a map. It is a map on how to who you need to unlock this. Who you need to unlock this.
Yeah, I say I want the videos to be short. I don't want them to be useless.
Yeah. I think it's worse than that though, because like I said, if 7 times more people are watching this than any other guide, like you're kind of doing a disservice. Like if you're that big in the community, like put together a farming guide, or at the very least, don't put out a video that's just over the algorithm and call it a farming guide when it's not a farming guide.
Right. If you're a person that is like you said, so big in the community, why are you just telling me how to do journeys? Bitch, you're 10 million GP. I don't even know how to do this.
I have 2 things to say. The first is everything I said about AP Gains bringing negativity to the environment of our game. I think this guy does the opposite. I think this guy single-handedly brings more good to our community than anyone else, because he provides kind of a centralized entertainment center for the game. Everybody knows this guy. Everybody's seen at least one of his videos. He loves the game, and he passes that on to the rest of us. And I think all of us love the game a little bit more because of this guy. So I have to give him props on that. And also, this can't be understated. This is probably the most important thing I've said this entire podcast, which is he's not afraid to call out the rebels for the terrorists that they are. And I think that can't be understated. That the Empire is just here to bring peace to the galaxy, and I think everybody wants peace, and I think it's very important that we support the Empire.
Well, see, I don't want peace. I believe that that we grow through chaos.
I think outside of his guide, which obviously this video is about the guide, but the guide's not great. It's not a guide. We already talked about that, but his channel as a whole, he's really good at conveying the information within the game at a level that everybody can understand. Whether you're a 500,000 GP character or a GP account, or you're an 11 million GP account, he can break the information down to where you can understand it and see how it applies to your account, which there's very few that I've seen that can do that. There's one other that we're not going to talk about in this video that I think does a good job. But his other videos, his GAC videos, his kit breakdowns, I enjoy them a lot. I think they're a lot of good information. He just shouldn't bother with farming guides, if we're being honest.
Yeah, he's getting an F on this shit because he doesn't give a farming guide.
Yeah.
The one good thing I'll say is he does talk for about 10 seconds about the Zeta challenge, how you unlock it, and why ships are important, which most of the other people didn't do. But besides,
that's a good 10 seconds.
Besides that, the other 14 minutes were useless. And speaking of other content creators, I randomly had a recommendation from a video a year ago from Zareth telling people to farm C as your first GL. So if anybody watched that and actually listened, my condolences. I'm sorry you got completely fucked over.
Yeah, don't do that.
Hey,
That's a
I
shame.
take that personally.
That's right. You did that.
Yeah, he did that, and you know what? He
To be
disagrees.
fair, I farmed Executor into C because everyone said there was overlap and that I should do that.
Well, you were starting on C, and then you went ahead and was like, man, I should do Executor because I'm so close because I'm doing C. And then you went to Executor, I remember, and then finished C. And it was like, the only reason I remember is because you were already getting number one, and then you were like, these fucking cheaters, they're still killing me.
So I think it deserves a shout out to our guild leader Duran, who we continue to argue about whether or not C is a piece of shit and a worthless galactic legend, which he is, to be clear. But Duran always tries to convince me, oh well, C is good at this, or C is good as that. C is a piece of trash. He's bad in almost every game mode. You can't put him on defense. Fuck that GL. Don't ever go him first.
So the guy that got me into the game also went C first, and oddly enough, the only reason I didn't farm for C first is because the guy I knew that played the game already had him. So I was like, I want to do something different.
Aren't you glad
man,
you
Throw
did
that
thanks,
guy
buddy.
a sandwich or something.
Yeah, I buy him lunch every once in a while. Hey, thanks for the C recommendation, you know? So anyway, F on the Arnold
F
guy.
on him, yep.
F across the board, right?
So this last guy, we'll have Venom go into the synopsis again, but I like this guy because he just seems like that smart kid sitting in the corner who just has kind of useful shit to say every once in a while. I think this guy's pretty interesting to watch.
He's not bad, but he's also got a 2-hour video.
God.
I watched all 2 hours of it.
I did skim through it because not only does this video 2 hours, but it has breakdowns into sections of what he's explaining that you can skip. He goes to the store. I don't need the store info. Let's skip that fucking section. First Fleet, first 6 Zeta, first, it's detailed. Although it's 2 hours, which is too fucking much, it's also broken down and detailed in a way that you're like, okay, well, this 2 hours isn't 2 hours of bullshit.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get a long video and you're like, oh my God, move on. This dude's got information.
Yep.
Too much? Maybe. But it's quality information and he lays it out and it's organized.
It's focused information. Compare this. Mm-hmm. This is more than twice as long as Star Wars Dad, right?
Right.
But which one feels more focused?
Exactly. He not only explains to you what to farm, why to farm, he gives you graphs, charts, other things, how to do it, why to do it. The most important part is why a lot of times. This dude spends 30 minutes talking about a fucking shop,
Yeah.
which would be terrible. But part of those 30 minutes he lays out the reasons why you're farming this shop. and which places to focus on. There's a lot of things that I could say that is too much, but and I know I've said this before, long videos aren't needed. 2 hours is a fucking long time, but it's a quality video, and it's a quality guide.
Here we are tipping over 2.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Go to the teams.
This is the Imperial Doctrine video. I think he put out a different one that's like a profundity first, so he's actually got two different ones. But profundity first is dumb. Don't do that. Do this one. So he has Iden lead troopers, and he sort of, like I said, he explains what you can farm at what level your account is, right? So like if you're level 30, there's different characters you have access to than if you're 75. So he talks about, mix and matching the different troopers together. So it starts, you're going to be using Iden lead, that turns into Veer's lead later. Eventually unlocking Bastila lead for the Jedi team, Geos, Padme, Bounty Hunters, Executor. Let's see, the Omicrons are Qui-Gon and Iden, Geo fleet with Tarkin lead. Malevolence is the first get to. He does talk about Vader and how important he is. 3 assault battles you can get with challenge tier 1 with these teams.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to it at 1.25 speed, and it works really good. So
that does help.
He's also wearing a suit, which I watched this one after I watched AP Gaines, who's wearing like a wife beater. And I mean, just like I think when you're watching somebody in a suit give you this information, it's like you're in class almost.
It feels more important, right? It feels like this. I believe you a little better, and I'm a fan of dressing sloppy, but damn,
But yeah, he covers everything. He covers, like I said, sort of the steps along the way to level 85. Shops, fleets, the Zeta challenge, your first Zetas.
He goes into like GAC strategies.
Yeah, and the web store too. Nobody else talks about like your web store freebies. Ooh, I need to do that today still. Whoops. You have to have the time to watch it, but I don't think there's any other video that's gonna like set you up for success better than this one.
So what is your rating on it?
I would give it an 8. If he found a way to condense this information into, a shorter time period, I think it would be an S.
So I agree with that, and I don't have much to say on it, other than we went through 8 videos, or 7 or 8 videos, right? And the amount of time that we spent on the other 6 videos was probably equivalent to what we did in this one video, and I feel like we got more from this one video than we did the other 6 combined.
Absolutely.
So, as a result, I can't not give it an A. Yes, it's a long video, but if it accomplished exactly what we were trying to accomplish, and it did it better than, I told you my other strategy sometimes is to watch a bunch of videos and try and find the overlap and the consistencies. I feel like that's unnecessary when this video exists. So I just feel like this is the only video I came out of going, that was what I was looking for. It was long, but like Min said, I did skip a couple sections because he does know how YouTube works, and he knows how to put chapters into his video, which is absolutely fantastic. I didn't bring that up earlier, but there were a couple of the other ones who didn't do that, and that's frustrating because, that would have saved me a half an hour on Star Wars Dad's video if he would have just had chapters that said, hey, this is the part where I just go over how the game works and how shards work. I would have known not to watch that, not to waste a half an hour of my day.
100%.
So as far as that's concerned, dude, if your content can be 6 hours long, but if you have chapters and people can skim through it based on what like I said, it's all about scope. Here's what I'm going to talk about today. If this part doesn't interest you, don't watch it. And therefore, I actually probably only watched about an hour and 20 minutes of this video because I skipped the shit that I didn't want to watch. Yeah, I mean, it was worth it. It was still better than the rest of the videos combined, I would say. If you're going to watch one video that we talked about today, this is the one.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I said, you can play it at 1.25 and it plays pretty well like that.
Yeah. Again, it's out of all the videos we watched, I wouldn't even bother with the others.
In fact, some of them you didn't bother with.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's true.
Yeah, I think he's got a really good guide. And he's got a decent little following, like 5,000 subscribers or whatever. I think he probably deserves to have more than that. I mean, it's a good guide. It breaks, I mean, everything down. Talking to like your first 6 Zetas, your first fleet, all kinds of stuff. GAC strategies, exec strategies, stuff like that. And then on top of it, he actually provides like source material in the description. So he provides his little block graph thing that he uses in the description that you can click on. That way you can have it as well. Which is pretty awesome. Most of them don't do that, so that's pretty cool. I'm kind of with y'all. I think he's an A. I think he's by far and away the best guide on this list. I'm kind of glad we saved him to last. I actually kind of wish we could focus more on this guy, but I think he puts out good stuff, and I've never seen this guy until you posted him in the chat, and I'm kind of interested to go and watch some of his other videos.
Yeah, his mod videos are really, really good too.
Yeah.
So that puts him far and away as the top scorer with an average of an A. Nobody else even broke into the B category overall. Second place was Sungeta with a C+. Third place being Catman himself, Fat Phil, with a C. And tie for fourth place between. No, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm going to give fourth place to Star Wars Dad, even though he did tie somebody else.
Wait, you forgot somebody.
Oh,
got him again.
Oh yeah, got him again. Took third. I'm sorry. So, it was. Oh no, fourth. Man, let's start over. Just skip that whole section. Cut that shit out.
I promise you, I will edit that whole thing out.
Overall, we have Darth Loquitor with the highest score of an A, followed not very closely by Sungeta with a C+. Third place going to Fat Phil, the man with the cats, and the somewhat useful knowledge. Fourth place to GothemAgain with a C-. Fifth place to Star Wars Dad. And then from there, it just kind of drops off. We're not going to even mention the other two.
Worthless, as they would say.
It was AP Gains and then Arnold, which I still think
is
weird too.
Biggest content creators in the game, but their farming guides are belong in the dumpster.
Just stick to making clickbait videos. That's what they're good at.
Yeah, why don't you keep dancing, and we'll just go back to making farming guides without you.
Yeah, and I think you can choose between the AP Gains video and the Arnold video depending on how you are. If you're someone who hates guilds and likes good, decent videos about being selfish, watch AP Gains. If you're someone who likes really high production quality and a video that has nothing to do with farming, then watch Arnold.
I mean, that's pretty much it. That's it to a T right
I think you nailed it right there, player.
And then actually watch Darth Loquitor after that.
Yeah, if you want quality information, Darth Loquitor he seems to be the one. Even if you got to put the time aside, I mean, shit, you already spend your whole fucking life playing this game anyway. You might as well spend 2 hours watching how to play it.
On that note, so that you guys can sleep at some point, we have everyone's favorite, what would you call it? Segment? Everyone's favorite segment? Bottom of the backpack.
Bottom of the backpack.
So
you know what? I got to pour some more wine for this motherfucker.
So these are not made up. You will think they are. And maybe this will be funnier to people who do guild recruiting than everybody else, but
yeah,
these are actual posts made in community Discord servers by people looking for guilds.
Don't be these people.
I thought I needed to set aside like 30 minutes to like really scroll back through time and be like, okay, let me go through the last 2 weeks of Arnold server, right? And look at that. It took about 2 minutes because all of these posts were within the last 24 hours of when I looked because it's just so egregious. Jesus. All right, I'm going to start with one that's not too bad, all right? Looking for a guild who can get Watt shards and maybe 260 million GP for territory war.
Okay.
All right, so guesses to this account's GP.
I'll say 1.5.
Since we're on bottom of the backpack, I'm going to assume it's not good.
I said the first one's not going to be terrible.
You know what? He's asking for 250 million GP, good watch shards. I'm gonna say he's 2 million GP with no geos.
Okay.
He's asking for watch shards and 2.2 or 260
260. So a little bit bigger than Ilum.
I'm gonna say he's 2 million.
Min already said 2. You got to go higher or lower.
I'll go lower, 1.7.
All right, Min wins. He's 2.1 million.
Nice.
Motherfucker. And does he have geos?
He does have geos. So like I said, that one's
You
not
know-
terrible.
Not the worst. I mean, he's still an idiot. But, you know what? At least he can contribute to a part of the guild.
Okay, so it gets worse.
I don't doubt it.
All right, looking for a guild for a good amount of watt shards and cam shards.
Ooh, watt and cam shards.
But I'm too weak to find
Uh-huh.
guilds for cam shards, so I'll take watt shards. We'll
Oh.
we'll participate, grind as many tickets as possible. All right, how much GP is the guy who wants watt shards and cam shards is a plus, but I'm too weak to find guilds for cam shards, but he's still asking for
So
it.
he is aware enough to know that he's too weak to get cam shards, and so he will accept.
He is asking for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but he will accept a guild that doesn't have cam shards.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm going to 1.5. Again, no geos.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 1.1, also with no geos.
Okay.
Obviously no geos. I'll say 1.3.
So Scurvy nailed it. 1.1 million, no geos.
Nice.
Wow, you want geos and cam shards, and you can't even get a fucking watch shard? Why don't you just delete the fucking game?
I love how he says he's too weak for cam shards, but he's also too weak for watch shards.
You're too weak for everything, you goddamn clown.
Like
Good
he was
Lord.
halfway there on the
What's
self-acknowledgement.
crazy is Venom's like, this only gets worse.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, how much lower can we go?
He's like, well, just stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, because this guy, he's not just bottom of the backpack. He's hanging out with old eraser shavings and shit.
Oh my god.
Fuck. The next guy's gonna be Stains.
Okay.
Yikes.
Alright, this next guy. Looking for a guild that consistently raids to save on the credit and guild currency crunch early game. Ideally looking for a guild that earns a good amount of get to, as I want to farm Negotiator as soon as I'm able. He wants you to know that he will participate in guild events, and he gets 600 tickets.
Wait, okay.
So he's obviously small enough to where he can't farm get to, or he can't farm get to fleets, because he says, I want to be able to farm Negotiator as soon as I'm able to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't farm it until you get into a guild getting get to, right?
Right. Okay.
Okay, so, you know, he's looking for a guild that raids, and he wants a good amount of get to. What level is his account?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, we're not even talking about GP. What level is his account?
So, I
Oh,
think it would
man.
be ironic, and I'm just going to say he's level 59 because it would be hilarious if he was looking for get to for fleets and he doesn't even have fleets unlocked.
Yeah. I mean, since we're talking about level, I'm going to go with 70. I don't even know why. Because it just I don't know what to answer here.
I think this dude has gotten into fleets, and he realizes, you know, oh, I need a good fleet. So that's why he's like, okay, now I need to get to fleet, like, immediately. So I'm going to say he's level 65.
Right.
So we have 60...
I'm going to 70 just because I have no fucking idea what to do.
Okay.
But I agree kind of with what y'all are saying is he's probably just getting into fleets. And this sounds like less of a backpack and more of an ignorant person that watched AP Gains.
All right. You all lose. You were all over. This person's account is level 35.
Get the fuck out of here! You gotta be kidding
How
me!
can you even join guilds?
22 is when you can join guilds. This fucking guy. You know what? I need to put him on a blacklist somewhere just to know ahead of time if he ever, gets up high enough to make sure he doesn't get, into a guild.
Oh God,
Man,
I don't
what
think
an
you
ass.
can do raids at that level yet.
Good
What level
Lord.
do raids
You can't even fucking join TB.
No, of course not. That's 65.
You can't do anything. You're not gonna get the get to, you fucking goof. That guy needs to fucking. I wish this game had a hard copy so that I could tell that guy to throw it away. Because he doesn't need to play. Anyway.
Okay, I have one more.
Man, how can it get worse? Is this guy level 1 and he wants a fucking executor?
Looking for all heroic raids. New player. Will be active. So, has this player created his account yet?
I was gonna say he hasn't even created the account yet before you said that.
Get the-
No, he hasn't.
Yep.
Get the fuck out of
Thinking
here!
of downloading the game.
Thinking of.
I'm getting a phone in 3 months. Want to get ahead of the curve.
Fucking shit. I can't even make a funnier comment than the last two. That was just. Y'all both nailed it. I'm here just drawing a blank because how can you get stupider? And anything I say would just be ridiculous. Wow.
He obviously has not. He's planning to make a new account and hyperdrive it.
Get
Oh my
out.
god. Yeah, no guy.
I don't know. I don't know what the world has come to
I mean,
with that guy.
those were within, like I said, a day of me looking back on like AP Gains and Arnold and
Right.
other servers. All right, do we have anything else to add? This went on quite long.
Oh, I've got to come
Right,
up with an
well-
outro now?
Something along the lines of, I appreciate y'all listening to the Galaxy of Zeros, where we have given you our best and worst ideas.
That was
Nailed
No,
it.
you're better at wording it than I am. I'm just saying. Something like that.
We also don't have to record it right now. We can record the outro later and throw it in, right?
Yeah. We won't use this.
If I had to come up with the outro off the top of my head, I would say, well, I'm glad you all listened to us for 3 hours complain that everyone else's videos were too long.
Perfect. And we'll do it again next week.
Honestly, it did take a long time, but this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, had a good time.
I want to do some more of this. It was pretty good.
Anytime you
think
can talk some Galaxy Hero.
I think it's like fairly quality fun for a podcast. I don't think there was an excessive amount of hate, but I think there was a good amount. It's a good amount of hate.
From a hairy vine, I can be your backpack while you climb. Stand on one hand and lift rocks with your special gift. Run